To wake up in the morning to the quiet of the cove and hear Aunt Bessie talking to herself, and to hear poor Uncle John mumbling wishes to O'Nell, it made me feel like everything was fine. I was born down by the water, it's here I'm gonna stay. I've searched for all the reasons why I should go away, but I haven't got the thirst for all those modern day toys, so I'll just take my chances with those saltwater joys. Following a little brook as it trickles to the shore in the autumn when the trees are flaming red, kicking leaves that fall around me, watching sunsets paint the hills, it's all I'll ever need to feel at home. This island that we cling to has been handed down with pride by folks who fought to live here, taking hardships all in stride, so I'll compliment her beauty, hold on to my goodbyes, and I'll stay and take my chances with those saltwater joys. How can I leave those mornings with the sunrise on the cove and the gulls like flies surrounding Clayton's wharf? Platter's Island wrapped in rainbow in the evening after fog, the ocean smells are perfume to my soul. Some go to where the buildings reach to meet the clouds, where warm and gentle people turn to swarming faceless crowds, so I'll do without their riches, glamour and the noise, and I'll stay and take my chances with those saltwater toys. Some go to where the buildings reach to meet the clouds, where warm and gentle people turn to swarming faceless crowds, so I'll do without their riches, glamour and the noise, and I'll stay and take my chances with those saltwater joys.
Good evening and welcome to This Week in Review. Tonight in our stories we have Green Team activities, renovations at the school, tidy town judges, town council report. Please stay tuned for these stories after this.
Remembering is difficult, but even more difficult if you have Alzheimer's disease, a disease that affects the brain, erases memory, and eventually takes life. The Alzheimer's Society is fighting back. It provides support, information, and funds research into finding the cause and a cure. Until then, remember this.
The Green Team have been busy this summer with their environmental education activities at Sandbanks Provincial Park. One project was the construction of trail barriers that can be seen in a few locations along the park trails. These structures are to help guide hikers along the main trails and hopefully help prevent random wandering across the grasses. This effort will help avert unnecessary erosion and destruction of plants and grasses, and also help encourage people to enter and exit the beaches from the ends of the beach.
Today we're putting up the signs that we made earlier in the week. We're hoping they'll act as symbolic barriers, encouraging people to use the main trails. The reason we want people to use these trails instead of making their own is to limit the impact that we have on piping plover habitats that are in the sand dunes and to help prevent erosion of these dunes.
Okay. Smiles. Pretend you're enjoying this.
A letter was received from our MHA, Kevin Parsons, concerning the brush cutting on the Burgeo Road. In the letter, he stated that R.V. Gale of Stephenville Crossing had won the bid on the brush cutting, and that the final contract documents and details are being worked out, and that the project should start soon. Also, if residents want to inquire about removing larger pieces of wood from the cut area, they should talk to the contractor, since Mr. Gale will be the owner of any brush or wood that he cuts pursuant to the contract. Due to the ongoing renovations at the school, I was not permitted inside the building to inquire about the rumors that have been circulating about school not opening. I have been in contact with a Mr. Craig Butt, who is in charge of the renovations. He had told me that he will have to call me back due to meetings, but he has stated that the school will open in the fall and that there was a problem with faulty windows and they have been replaced. The judges from Tidy Town came by our studios and had a chat with me about their role in the Tidy Town Association. Good evening. In our studios tonight, we have a lady from the Tidy Town Newfoundland and Labrador Association. Good evening.
Good evening.
And what would your name be?
Barbara Burnaby.
Okay. And you are under the Association of Municipality?
The Tidy Towns program is under the Association of Municipalities, yeah.
Okay. So what is your role with Tidy Towns?
I'm a volunteer, and it's my, I and a number of other people go around to assess communities that are participating as far as the tidiness, but it goes much more than just tidiness of towns who have got into this competition.
Okay. So what kind of criteria do you look for when you're evaluating towns?
Any town in Newfoundland and Labrador can join this competition, and we judge. We have the word judge, but we don't mean judge in the sort of mean, mark you down sort of sense, but we assess the different communities and compare them with respect to tidiness in the classical sense, like, you know, do you have garbage all over the place and things like that. But other categories like environmental awareness, you know, does the town have a sense of getting as many as possible environmental kinds of programs, like not using pesticides on lawns, for example, or the way in which they deal with garbage, which is a very complicated, difficult subject because it's expensive and has complicated relationships to things like recycling, and so do towns do that kind of thing? And then the heart of the whole thing is community involvement, because all of this is not just about the outside appearance of things, but is it a matter of town pride? Is it a matter of a lot of people getting involved and working together and doing the kinds of things that they can do their best? So one important aspect is, for example, we always go around and look at a lot of private gardens, because what a difference that makes if some people at least are really good gardeners. It's not for everybody, but it's very nice to have that kind of thing. Or do they have programs that involve seniors or young people, or are there good collaboration between the town council and the churches, for example, or unions, it could be, or whoever. Just we're looking at collaboration and how people get involved with these kinds of things. Then another really important category is natural and cultural heritage conservation. So if your town has either natural features or historical features or both, what do you do to make the most of those things for your school children, for the community as a whole, for pride and memory and this sort of thing, for respecting seniors, for often raising money to do things, for welcoming tourists to come in, those kinds of things. So are there things that you do with your natural features and your historical features? So, the interesting old houses, or interesting old businesses, and use of heritage houses, and just also making the most of heritage houses, because usually they look so interesting and nice for people to see. Then there's the natural environment. So how do we deal with trees and bushes, and just how people handle green space as opposed to building space. And then landscaped areas, for example, a lot of places have various kinds of memorials or war memorials or other kinds of and particularly do people care about the cemeteries, for example, and do that sort of thing as a landscaped area, or the lawns or whatever around buildings. We're concerned about what the town does, what commercial people do. So, do they tidy up around commercial buildings too, or do they just leave a bunch of asphalt around the outside for people to park in? And do they put garbage bins out? And do they make things look nice? Do they plant something? That kind of thing. And also then private people. So do people make their houses look nice? Floral displays. So do they put flower beds out and do that kind of thing? And turf and ground covers, just again, how do they deal with grass or other kinds of things? Both on things that are kind of like lawns, but also when you've got walking trails and various things like that, are they comfortable? Are they accessible? Are they well kept so that people can really get around the town safely and nicely? Yeah.
So on average, how many communities have you assessed?
Well, the Association of Municipalities, Federation of Municipalities, calls for volunteers, and they organize volunteers in pairs to do assessments of about 7 communities.
Okay.
And what they do is they take the whole list of communities that have said they want to be part of this, and they divide them up by population categories, because it means it's much more fair when you're comparing groups, because it wouldn't be fair to take a big city with a lot of tax dollars and that sort of thing and compare it to some much smaller place.
Okay.
So they do it so they've got 10 categories of size. So we're looking at the ones that are about the size of Burgeo.
So this is like within that 7, you'll pick one, and that will be the winner, and then in another part of the province, there's another pick, or is it all categorized and then just one in the province?
What we do is we have, a sort of a grading scheme and that sort of thing. So as we write down our notes and our grades, one will win out of the 7, and we can also give a special mention for some particular aspect. So if one community really does a fabulous job with floral displays, or some community really is remarkable about community involvement, we can put that in. And so out of each category, the 10 categories then of size, there will be one winner for each one. And there will also be some honorable mention kind of ones for special aspects of these things. So out of our 7, we could have the one winner plus possibly one special mention for landscaped areas or something like that.
Okay. So when you decided to volunteer for this, was there much training you had to go through?
We had a whole day of training, and was largely carried out by previous judges who had had a lot of experience. And people have chosen to be judges often because they've got a lot of experience with something or other. So a lot of them have been involved with landscape architecture, for example, but I think other people have had other kinds of community experiences. And for example, my partner Joan has been involved with heritage things in the province, so that gives her an interest. And me, I'm a gardening fan, so.
Okay. So when do we expect the announcement of the winners?
When the Federation of Municipalities has its annual meeting in October or November, I think, when all the communities, mayors and some council people, I think, get together for their annual meeting, then they make this announcement. And we understand that the winners are really anticipated, that everybody's waiting to see whether they made it or not. Yeah.
Yes, because up to October, there'll be a nice little wait.
Yes, yes.
Is there anything else that you would like to add to this?
I'd just like to say that I volunteered because this is such a wonderful opportunity to go to places in the province where I wouldn't have had a reason to go and necessarily, and probably just wouldn't have got around to. And we have been so welcomed in these communities that it has been a grand experience for us just to talk to really nice people in the councils, in the various voluntary groups in communities, and going around and seeing really interesting historical stuff and beautiful gardens. What a pleasure. So I want to volunteer next year too.
Very good. Well, I'd like to thank you for taking your time to coming in and chat with us.
It's been a real pleasure.
It has been a pleasure having you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor George Reed came by our studios with his town council report.
Good evening. Council had a meeting on August the 15th, and I'll go over some of the things that happened at the meeting. Water treatment plant. Well, the water treatment plant is going to be a reality, and I can finally say that for sure. And I'll just read you this letter here of August the 7th, 2007. It says, we are pleased to advise that the Federal Provincial Management Committee has approved your application for water treatment plant. This is phase 1 of the water treatment plant, and in phase 1, $2,652,720 were approved. The federal government is going to put in $884,240. The provincial government, $1,246,778. And the town of Burgeo has to put in $521,702. So phase 1 is a reality. And of course, if they bought into phase 1, they're buying into phase 2. Now, when I say phase 1, I just want to say that what is being planned by the engineers to do with the water treatment plant is that phase 1, they're talking about taking out all of the old equipment that's in the building that's up there now and replacing it with new equipment. And everything else that has to be, all the modifications that has to go with that. Hopefully that tenders for that will get called this fall, and the work will be done throughout the fall and winter and spring, I would assume. And phase 2, we got it called phase 2, is building the storage tank. There has to be a storage tank built up in the Ironsarm area with 500,000 gallon capacity. And that hopefully will be tendered and probably installed sometime in probably late 2008 or early 2009. So I think being on the cautious side, I think it's probably going to take some time in 2009 before we get this water system up and running. And that probably is the best estimate that I can give it at this particular time. The council is going ahead, of course, with all its day-to-day work it has to do, and all the stuff that it normally has to do during the summer. It has a job to do with the fire hall. That they're going to put in a new entrance to the fire hall, and that probably will take place now through the fall. You probably already heard from your MHA. I think it was announced by him that there's going to be brush cutting on the Burgeo Road, and we've heard from the contractor that will probably start around the 27th of this month if everything goes well. We've also been informed that they're going to put the ferry terminal out there by the parking lot, and where the government wharfs to, where the ferries come in, of course. And that terminal is going to be approximately 24 feet by 70 feet, and my understanding is that tenders will be called shortly for that building. The driver examiner, as you know, I think the driver examiner came out in May and didn't come back anymore until August, which was way too long in periods between coming here to Burgeo. So our MHA, Mr. Parsons, have written a letter to Minister Wellen complaining about this, and council has also written a letter to Minister Wellen complaining about the length of time between examiners coming to Burgeo. Not only does Burgeo depend on that examiner, of course, it's Grey River and Francois and Ramia. And if any of you people were listening, and if you're not pleased with the service from that driver examiner, if you're not pleased with it, you should also pick up your phone and call Minister Whelan's office, the provincial government, and register a complaint about the fact that the driver examiner is not there on more frequently. The beautification program, that of course is, the judging for that is going to be this week. Oh, well, I guess by the time you hear this, it'll be already taking place. The Tidy Town Committee they were in Burgeo on Tuesday and Wednesday. And my understanding from the talking to the town manager that they were very, very pleased with the town. They were. It wasn't a very nice day when they were in. I think it was raining, but nevertheless, they told the manager that they were very, very pleased with the activities in town and the cleanliness of town and how tidy it was. So that's something to be proud about. Of course, nomination day came and went, and no one came forward to be nominated. So where we go from here, of course, we have a number of options. One, we can look around to see if we can get someone to be appointed on council. Number two, I think we can call another nomination day somewhere in the future. And number three, I think we can just operate with 6 members that we have now. Which one council will, which option that they will take at the moment, I don't know, because council never decided at the meeting on Wednesday. So that's a future decision to be made. It's unfortunate, though, I have to say that with all the retirees in Burgeo and all the people in Burgeo that's really seem to have a bit of time on their hands. It's very unfortunate that we've had to run this nomination twice and not get anyone come forward to serve on council for one meeting a month. It's not showing, of course, very much enthusiasm to work with council problems. The garbage cans, I suppose I have to say something else about that. Really, this will probably be the last time I'll talk about them because talking about it doesn't seem to solve the problem. I think we're going to have to correct it, and hopefully over the winter now, before they get put back out next spring, we will try every means possible to solve that problem, that garbage can problem. There seems to be a few small mines here in Burgeo, very, very small mines, when the biggest activity they can find to entertain themselves is upsetting a garbage can. I mean, it borders on sickness as far as I'm concerned, So whoever's, I'm sure that whoever's doing this, we just about caught someone in the act, I think it was Saturday night past. There was two young fellows were tipping them over, and of course when the car that recognized it, when they by the time they got turned around to go and see who it was, they had taken off, and we've reported to the RCMP. Hopefully the RCMP probably can get the fingerprints from that activity. Even if they get accumulation of a number of fingerprints, hopefully that next time it happens, they might be able to get some and tie them together. But it's a pretty sick activity to be entertaining yourself with at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, tipping over garbage cans. Borders on foolishness is what it is, or even worse than that. I got a job to talk about because it's almost a laughing matter. So any Any of you parents out there listening to this report, why don't you talk to your sons? If you got a son that's of a certain age that could be possibly involved in doing this, because I'm sure that these young fellows who are doing it are not sitting down listening to this report or listening to what I'm saying about it or anyone else is saying about it. So be interesting if you talk to your young boys and try to explain to them that there must be something that they can do to entertain themselves rather than tipping over garbage cans. It's just an ugly thing to see in the morning, these garbage cans tipped over. And I got a feeling 99.99% of the people in Burgeville detest it, don't like seeing it, and would like to catch the people who are doing it. And I got a feeling whoever gets caught at this is going to feel pretty silly at the end of the day, to be continually at this, because you know what, you're going to be tagged for doing it for the last 3 or 4 years. You're going to be one who's going to be nailed with doing this, whether it's your first time doing it or not. You're going to be nailed with every occasion of getting it done. So I would appreciate if the parents would talk to their young boys and try to point out to them that there must be something else they can do. The car dump. We have a car dump up there, of course, and council's got regulations that if you want to take a vehicle to the car dump or get council to take it to the car dump, you have to call council and ask them, and you have to have everything drained from your car or truck or your vehicle, in this case, and you have to have the tires removed before council can take it away. So please remember that. And I would like to ask the people one more time, everyone that's going around, out around the door, out around the roads, out around the coves or wherever it happened to be, if you see any water running that's unusual, that shouldn't be running in that area, and if you think that it's a leak from council's water supply, of course, please phone the town office and tell them where you think the leak's occurring, and council will investigate it for sure. They'll do that right away. And just going back to the garbage cans for one more minute, any of you people out there, please, any of you, it doesn't make a difference who, if you see someone taking part in that activity, would you please phone council? You don't have to give your name, just phone council and give us who you think it is, and we'll follow up from there. We'll get the RCMP involved immediately. And thank you for your cooperation. Have a good week and good night.
Mayor Reed asked me to make the correction of the size of the ferry terminal. It will be 24 feet by 30 feet, not 70 feet as previously mentioned. This concludes our program for tonight. Thank you for watching. Good night.